What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Friday, March 14th, 2025, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now it is 1500 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we currently have US and Russian nuclear forces and strategic forces on very high alert. And last night we had some very rare data signals transmitted on Russia's primary nuclear war frequency. And today, Russia is also transmitting some encrypted voice messages on Russia's primary nuclear war frequency known as the buzzer. And right now, over the continental United States, we have a U.S. Cobra Ball plane, a U.S. Nuke Sniffer plane, and a U.S. Combat Sentinel plane, all airborne at the same exact time, which is extremely rare. The Cobra Ball is a special plane used to detect and track missiles, and the Nuke Sniffer plane is a special plane used to sample the atmosphere for radiation and radiological material. So they typically use those to detect nuclear explosions and also any kind of nuclear power plant meltdowns or any kind of radiological situation the Nuke Sniffer can detect. And the Combat Sentinel is the highest priority reconnaissance plane in the U.S. military. It provides reconnaissance information directly to the president and our top generals. We only have 2 of them in the entire Air Force, and one of them is airborne right now. So here you can see the Cobra Ball up in North Dakota, the Nuke Sniffer over Iowa, and the Combat Sentinel over Missouri. And the Combat Sentinel did this giant east to west loop here, flew all the way to Ohio and back, and all of these planes took off from Offutt Air Base, which is home of U.S. Strategic Command. So these are all strategic planes and strategic missions, okay? Very important missions that these planes are flying. So something is going on considering all these planes up in the air at the same time, and also the Russian buzzer transmitting all of these rare data signals and encrypted voice traffic. I'm going to share some samples of that from last night and from today. Here we have a U.S. recon plane patrolling the Black Sea. This is very, very rare. Okay, the last time I've seen this recon plane, Jake 17 and RC-135 rivet joint in the Black Sea, was probably in the first few months of the Ukraine war. Okay, so it appears that Russia is planning some kind of massive strike on Ukraine, and I will be covering that live. I will be monitoring live this evening. Okay, so tune into my live stream, and we'll be covering the whole situation. But this is extremely rare, and you can see it's flying east to west in the central Black Sea, really deep in the Black Sea. And when they fly like this, they're actually looking off to the sides of the plane with their reconnaissance tools, and they have side-looking radars. So this plane is looking right into Crimea, okay, right into the southern shore in particular of Crimea and Sevastopol. So this is very, very concerning. It could indicate that Russia has a lot of warships here that they're preparing to use to strike Ukraine from the ocean. And we actually had another recon plane in the Black Sea earlier this morning. It was actually a British rivet joint, and it was flying parallel to the western shore of Crimea earlier this morning. So the U.S. is on very high alert. And here we have one of the rarest data signals you can ever hear. This is a Russian monolith, and it was actually encoded. Typically it's in the clear in voice text, but this one was encoded. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP Shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP Shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP Shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video. And there were some Russian words here after I decoded it. Here's a sample. So you can see some Russian words here. This is the Russian monolith. This is one of the highest priority nuclear codes transmitted by the Russian military. Okay, this is like the equivalent of a Sky Master or a Sky King message here in the US. This is very, very serious. This was late last night. And then also right now, we have multiple over-the-horizon radars in Europe turned on. Here you can see 3 of them on the waterfall of this SDR. Here's a really strong one. Take a listen. So an over-the-horizon radar is a long-range radar that can detect ballistic missiles, specifically long and medium-range ballistic missiles, ICBMs, IRBMs, okay? So these are most likely NATO long-range ICBM nuclear war radars that are now active. This is right now, okay? So NATO is on high alert. The U.S. is on high alert. It appears that Russia is planning some kind of big strike on Ukraine as retaliation for those 337 drones that they launched at Moscow and surrounding regions last week. This is very, very serious, and all of this is happening during the peace negotiations. Ukraine agreed to a 30-day ceasefire earlier this week, and Russia's not abiding by it. Okay, they launched a bunch more drones last night and a bunch of missiles today, and Ukraine is still attacking Russia. So like I said, guys, there's not going to be any miraculous peace deal here. This war is going to continue on. It's going to escalate, and it's also going to expand. Okay, it's going to expand into Europe. Russia is massing forces on the border of Poland and Lithuania. Okay, Poland is going to be training all of their adult males in military tactics and survival, okay? Mandatory military training for all Polish men. That is absolutely huge. Turning all of their civilian airports into dual-use civilian and military airports, okay? And this afternoon, we also have some very rare activity on the Russian buzzer, the primary nuclear war frequency in Russia. You can hear some encrypted voice messages going over the buzzer. You'll hear the buzzing tone in the background. That's just the channel marker. And then you'll hear like this static sound or like a weird sort of like fuzz every couple of seconds. That's actually encrypted voice. Okay, so take a listen. that fuzz is encrypted voice. Okay, that's very rare. And we also have the Russian national anthem playing on the Stalingrad clock channel, which is typically what the Russians do before they launch a big strike on Ukraine. They play the Russian national anthem. And last night there was also a very rare encrypted data stream on the buzzer as well, and it was going non-stop for several hours, which I personally have never heard, and I've been monitoring the buzzer for several years, and I've never heard an encrypted data stream last for this long. So that singular tone is the encrypted data. And then there was also a very rare and high priority encrypted data stream right next to the buzzer. And my radio guy tells me that this is like a very, very high priority encrypted data stream, the equivalent to telling the Russians to arm all of their mobile launchers. Okay, so this is very, very serious. It looks like Russia's preparing a massive strike on Ukraine, potentially an Oreshnik strike. And last night, we also had U.S. nuclear forces and continuity of government forces on high alert. We had a nuke sniffer plane that was patrolling the coast of California, Oregon, and Washington, the entire West Coast. But what was most concerning is that it dropped in altitude down to just 4,000 feet, and it was flying at just 4,000 feet in altitude along the coast of southern Oregon and northern California, which could mean that there was some kind of a nuclear-powered submarine or nuclear-armed submarine here off the coast of California and Oregon. And these nuke sniffer planes have such sensitive instruments that they can even pick up a nuclear-powered submarine underwater. So this is very concerning, and at the same time as the nuke sniffer was patrolling the entire West Coast, we also had a presidential doomsday plane that was airborne with its tracker off. Okay, so they must have scrambled the doomsday plane up into the air. And here's a closer look at the nuke sniffer flying really low along the coast of Oregon and California. Very rare to see this. Here's the doomsday plane flying without its tracker. You can see it turned its tracker on just when it took off from Offutt Air Base, and then it turned its tracker off, and then it turned it back on when it was about to land. Okay, so it was flying dark. And then we had a B-52 nuclear bomber moved from RAF Fairford in the UK to some kind of base in southern Norway. That is very interesting, and I've personally never seen that before. More reconnaissance in Poland and the Baltics. And we also had a high priority reconnaissance plane patrolling the border of Texas and Mexico and Arizona and Mexico last night. And then there was also a B-1 strategic bomber airborne, and all of this happening at the same time as the nuke sniffer flying along the West Coast. So guys, get prepared. Things are not going to get better. It's only going to continue to get worse. The wars are going to escalate and expand. Okay, so make sure you have a nuclear war survival plan. And if all of this is not bad enough, Finland is talking about setting up 300 emergency stores to function in times of crises. The stores will function both if electricity and networks are down and if logistics are interrupted. The stores will be powered by backup generators and will be stocked with food and fuel. In densely populated areas, the distance to such a store will be 50 kilometers, and in rural areas, 150 kilometers. The first emergency stores are scheduled to be ready this year, and the system is expected to be completed by 2028. Okay, so this is huge news, guys. Finland setting up 300 emergency stores, okay, to function in a time of crisis. That is very, very concerning. And Poland is doing the same thing. The Baltic countries are doing the same thing. All these countries in Eastern Europe and Scandinavia are focusing on their civil defense. Last year, Poland ordered a survey of all of their bomb shelters, especially in Warsaw. The mayor of Warsaw and the Polish military did a massive survey to identify where bomb shelters are located, because Poland was part of the Warsaw Pact, and they had the largest military in the Warsaw Pact, and Warsaw had a lot of bomb shelters built and fallout shelters during that time in the event of a war with NATO, and there was like a artillery and missile exchange. They created a massive amount of shelters all across Poland, but especially in Warsaw. Okay, so they're doing a massive survey now, and they wouldn't be doing that for no reason. Okay, and Poland is also building the largest defense line in Europe since World War II. And the president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, confirmed that Belarus is currently manufacturing launchers for the Oreshnik missiles and is waiting for delivery of these missiles from Russia. So yesterday, Lukashenko and Putin formally signed the agreement to allow Russia to station Oreshniks in Belarus. The Oreshnik is a two-stage solid-fueled intermediate-range ballistic missile. So an ICBM has 3 stages. This one has 2. So the range is basically a third less than an ICBM. It can still reach like 4,000 to 5,000 miles, but it puts all of Europe within striking distance, okay? And this is an IRBM, so it travels very fast. It's difficult to intercept. The only way to intercept them would potentially be with the Aegis Ashore system in Poland. So there's a very real arms buildup going on in Europe. Okay, this is like our version of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay, Putin is literally moving ICBMs right next to NATO, right next to Europe. Okay, these are not just regular short-range ballistic missiles, which they've had for 15 years in Kaliningrad. They had Iskander missiles with nuclear warheads, but these are actual ICBMs. This is like a Cuban Missile Crisis situation, and the media doesn't care. Nobody's talking about it. Okay, this is very, very serious, and the Polish president has requested U.S. nuclear weapons to be stationed in Poland. Okay, so it's continuing to escalate in Eastern Europe. And Maria Zakharova, the Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman, said Russia does not accept the deployment of armed forces from other countries in Ukraine. This would mean involvement in the conflict. Moscow will react by all means. Wow. And that's what Sergei Lavrov said yesterday as well. Okay, so Russia will not accept European troops in Ukraine. Okay, and we know that France and the UK were talking about sending 30,000 troops into Ukraine, and Russia will not accept that. Okay, that would be the start of a war. So I don't know how there's going to be any peace deal if there's not going to be any way to enforce it. Okay. And Ukraine launched another drone attack on Russia last night. They hit an oil refinery in the Tuapse region near Krasnodar. And also, Ukrainian drones attacked 2 gas pumping stations and an ammunition depot for S-300 and S-400 air defense systems. And also, a Ukrainian drone targeted the 333rd Combat Training Center in Mulino in the Nizhny Novgorod Oblast in Russia. The facility is known for its ability to train large numbers of troops. So very interesting. And Ukraine and Finland have signed a memorandum of understanding aimed at deepening cooperation between the two countries in the defense industry. And South Korea wants to sell submarines to Canada as relations with the U.S. worsen. Maintenance centers will be set up in Canada, and unlike the U.S. weapon systems, the South Koreans will give Canada full access to onboard technology. So South Korea is going to set up maintenance centers in Canada and do technology sharing, which the U.S. does not do with Canada. So this is huge news. Canada turning away from the U.S. when it comes to weaponry, and a lot of European countries are doing that. Portugal just abandoned their plans to buy F-35s from the U.S., citing political uncertainty. And NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said that Trump's pressure had European NATO members significantly increasing defense spending during his first term in office, and that the same dynamic can be seen now. Rutte says it's needed as NATO is starting to fall behind China and Russia. So Mark Rutte seems to like Trump because Trump has lit a fire under the butts of the European countries, okay? So I'm not saying that Trump's methods are necessarily the best, but sometimes, you have to be stern and you have to take drastic measures. So now we're seeing Europe starting to rearm, which is a good thing. And NBC News reported that President Trump has removed Keith Kellogg, his special representative for Russia and Ukraine, from high-level peace negotiations, allegedly at Putin's request. The Kremlin reportedly saw Kellogg as too pro-Ukraine, leading to his exclusion from the recent Saudi peace talks. A Russian official told NBC, "Not our type of guy." Wow. And the U.S. has resumed deliveries of ground-launched small-diameter bombs to Ukraine after modernizing them to better counter Russian jamming systems. And Zelensky today called Putin's response to a 30-day ceasefire very predictable and very manipulative. And the U.S. Justice Department is examining whether student protests at Columbia University over the Gaza war violated federal terrorism laws, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said on Friday. So guys, get prepared. Things are continuing to escalate. Here we have a U.S. Navy recon drone that was patrolling the Taiwan Strait last night, but I will be monitoring the situation tonight. I do believe Russia is going to launch some kind of massive strike. We have U.S. and Russian nuclear forces on high alert. Very rare data signals being transmitted on Russia's nuclear war frequency. So download my app in the Google Play Store. The link is in the description below this video, or you can search NYPrepper Emergency Alerts. It's 100% free. It lets me notify you when things are happening and also when I post updates. And we are working on an Apple version that's going to be coming out very, very soon. We've made a lot of progress on that. And also follow me on Telegram and Twitter and Rumble. I post all my videos over there as well. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.